Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rustic Pathways webinar with Country Directors. My name is Jared Cahan. I'll be leading the conversation today. So on tonight's call, I'll introduce Rustic for those who might be considering sending their teens on immersive international travel experiences for the first time. And then afterwards, we're going to introduce our panel and talk to you a little bit how you can get involved.
Travel really helps people find their purpose and their passion in life. We all realize that it's more and more important to get students out of their classroom and into the world. There's a natural process of reflection when anyone is traveling and they start looking at the world in different ways and thinking about how they plug into that bigger picture. We're trying to create a world where travel is an essential part of every education, where travel is a model of sustainable development, and to create a world where all people are connected through a shared humanity and all decisions are made with a global perspective.
Great. So I'd like to introduce you to our panel, and while we make these introductions, if you have any questions that you would like answered, please type them into the comments box within the webinar, and we will get to them if we can. If we cannot get to them, then at the end you will have an opportunity to connect directly with somebody from a Rustic team to talk individually about the questions you may have. So we're going to start by introducing Evan. And Evan, I would love for you to introduce the country that you are the director for. And if you could also tell us one program that is best for a first-time traveler coming to your country, as well as one program for a more immersive, rustic-style program.
Sure. Thanks, Jared. Hello, everyone. My name's Evan Wells. I'm the country director for the Fiji Islands. I've been with Rustic since the mid-1990s and have been involved with our operations in Fiji all that time. In terms of programs, I would definitely encourage students, if they're a first-time traveler, to consider our Intro to Service program if they're interested in service, or possibly the Big Fiji Explorer program is a really good touring and adventure travel program. In terms of a more immersive trip, one that would definitely be worth considering is our Highlands and Islands trip, which includes a homestay and a very strong cultural immersion element.
Great. Thank you, Evan. Mark, same questions to you.
My name is Mark Mankowski. I'm the USA Country Director, and I've been with Rustic since 2012. I would say a new program for first-time travelers would be a great one is the Key Largo Marine Lab program. It's a one-week program based out of Key Largo, and it's revolving around marine education. And then for a more intensive experience, definitely our Off the Map Alaska program, which is a 2-week travel program throughout some of the remote parts of Alaska. Really challenges students both physically and mentally, and it's just a really great program that really challenges students.
Awesome. Sam?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Sam. I'm the Country Director for Australia, coming to you this evening from our office just outside of Melbourne, down in Australia. I've been with Rustic for 10 summers now, 9 years looking after the operations here in Australia, and we'd love for your son or daughter to come down this way. If they're a first-time traveller, I'd recommend the Awesome Aussie Service Adventure. It's a 2-week program that's got a well-balanced mix of community service, adventure and touring for students that are looking to get out off the beaten track a little bit more and have a more rustic, immersive experience. Check out the Epic Outback program. It takes students to the far reaches of Australia and yeah, definitely gives them an authentic rustic experience. So thank you.
Cool. Ricardo, why don't you go next?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm Ricardo. I'm here in Costa Rica. I've been with Rustic for 12 years, and the programs that I would recommend for first time, well, I'm going to say two things. We have one program that it's for middle schoolers, so for 12 and 13 years old, if you want to start earlier. And also, if like 14 or 15 and want to do first time, I will recommend intro to community service. That's a good combination of a lot of things. And if you want to be more adventurous, you can go to the Bree service program in Heart of the Jungle, which is more rustic programs.
Great, thank you. And Brian? Oh, you're a bit muted, Brian.
Thanks, guys. All right. My name is Brian Haggerty. I'm the Thailand director. I've also been with Rustic for 12 years now. And yeah, as far as for beginner, I guess students who are traveling abroad for the first time, I would recommend going to our Ricefield service base. This is the largest program that we have in the entire company, and it's great combination of a little bit of travel and fantastic options of community service. On the more immersive end, we actually have a pair of programs. One is called Life on the Margin, and another is called Come With Nothing. Both of these are they're centered around northwest Thailand, looking at people who live in the highlands and who have really unique ways of life, and doing lots of powerful service, and also looking at other factors that have really changed the way they live. So those are the two programs I recommend.
Awesome. And Brian, I want to start with you and just ask you, and then go around to the panel as well, what makes the programs in your country unique? What are some of the things about Thailand that a student will encounter when they go there that they'll come back with and say, wow, that really changed me?
Well, Thailand, I feel like Thailand is just so different than anything anybody's ever seen. Unless you've traveled there before, it's just the religion, the food, the fruit, everything is so different, and it's at every turn it's surprising and also very welcoming. The Thai people are known as the land of smiles, and we have a staff in Thailand that consists of about 50 people. So our part of the experience is actually traveling and working and doing service beside our employees, who are very nice people, and they come from a lot of the places that we operate. So when we travel through, you really feel like you're part of the family, and you're welcome like family. So it's very unique.
Ricardo, I have the same question for you, for Costa Rica. What about Costa Rica that a student will come back and say, wow, that is so Costa Rica, that's amazing?
Best country of the world. I'm biased. I'm Costa Rican. I'm in Costa Rica. I think one of the things that, personally, I like about it is our country is like the nature. Definitely, we're 25% of our country. It's like national parks and reserves. The people here, I will say, like the Pura Vida lifestyle. We're like in the places that we go, we're very welcoming to. We try to be very welcome with everything, very genuine, and I think it's a very safe country in the places that we go. And the kids will definitely have a blast, in Costa Rica. I'm just in love of Costa Rica, so guys, more than welcome, all of them. You too, as well.
Cool, Evan. What about Fiji?
I think what I've seen consistently over the years is just the people of Fiji. I think most students initially come to Fiji because they have seen or heard about the warm blue waters, the golden beaches, just that tropical climate. But once they get here, it's the relationships they form with our local staff and within our communities that they really take away with them. So for Fiji, it's undoubtedly the people.
Cool. Sam in Australia, what about for your country?
Sure. I think two of the things that students always take away from Australia is the quality of the program leaders and having sort of authentic Australian leaders as part of their leadership team. And then just having experiences that are just almost impossible to get if they were traveling on their own or traveling with their families. We've sort of invested a lot of time into building relationships and connections with local communities and people that provide a really exciting sort of element to our programs and an insight into what life's like in Australia, which is near impossible to get if you were just here on a family holiday. So yeah, understanding what it's like in Australia from the through the eyes of the local people, that's something that students always take away.
And Mark, I intentionally left you for last because I think that you have a slightly different perspective as you oversee our United States program. So what about our program specifically, or our service partners, or the locations we go to that are unique or really special that a student traveling domestically, as most of our students are coming from the States, will be able to really take away from?
Sure. So I think the students that travel within the United States, like domestic students, they travel to places that they normally wouldn't go to on a family vacation. Most families aren't going to go down to a New Orleans, or they maybe not go to Alaska or a Baltimore, but they see some like the true issues that are going on, within our own borders. And I think that's a real shock for a lot of students because they realize, like, hey, this is going on in our own country, and it's not just, international issues. And then for our international students that are coming to the United States, they see kind of firsthand that, what's portrayed on the media is much different than what's going on the ground in the United States. So for all the students, I think they get this experience that, like, it does feel like they're traveling to a new country, regardless if they live in the United States. But also there's just a lot of fun activities. There's a lot of culture and a lot of traditions that happen, in each U.S. city that we travel to. And even within the own state, like Alaska, traveling from location to location, you're going to get a totally different feel, totally different group of, people that you're going to interact with. And I think that's what's really unique and stands out with our USA trips.
Ricardo, I want to ask you specifically about handling risk and managing risk. You oversee one of our largest countries in the world, perhaps our largest operation, a ton of students through Costa Rica. What type of infrastructure is in place in Costa Rica that can handle just the inherent risk that comes with so many students traveling? And then if you could specifically touch also on Zika or any types of in the media viruses that you hear about, and how you will react to handling these types of things going on in the world.
All right. Well, definitely we do have Zika in Costa Rica. That's a reality. There are very simple things that we do that really help us. Zika last year, I think, was very big on the media, and it was when it would explode in Latin America and Central America. And mosquito repellent, to be honest, is the easiest thing. And we some of the things that we just do, we have like times for our students to put mosquito repellent. So like definitely in the mornings and in the afternoon, it's when the mosquitoes are more active. It's when we have like times to, all right, everybody, let's take out all the mosquito repellent. We also have screens in our bases. We have different bases. So we have screens in our windows of the bases, and also mosquito nets for the places that we don't do. Hotels, we cannot control the hotels, but we just finished our wrap-up meetings in Costa Rica for the staff, and we're talking, knocking on wood, like we haven't had any cases of Zika. I'm just going to say, as a personal thing, just to wrap up this, I'm a father of like 11-year-old baby, and my wife was pregnant while Zika was like a big thing here, and we went to the beach and we're fine. So it's just like a lot of preventions what we do.
Great. And Evan, I want to ask you a similar question, but in a different scope. There was a terrible disaster last year in Fiji that affected a lot of communities that we have had relationships with, and a lot of people around the country with the cyclone. And I just want to get a sense of, one, how those communities are doing, what our response has been there, and then also what we do to take preventative measures to make sure our students are always safe on our programs.
Yeah, good. Well, the cyclone you're referring to, Jared, was Cyclone Winston, which occurred in February of 2016. This was a big natural disaster for Fiji and had a dramatic impact on the country. And the country itself is still recovering in some respects, you know, even now, 18 months later. So it's one of the realities of living and working in the South Pacific that these events do occur. Fortunately for us, the majority of our programs run during the American summer, June, July, and August, which is the dry season down here. So the likelihood of a major event like that occurring during our sort of peak season is very low. In order to sort of effectively address events like this when they do arise, we have very good relationships with government bodies. We've got good relationships with the military, with police services, and so forth. So we're able to maintain a very well-informed perspective with events that are coming onto the radar, and whilst they do occur, and we're able to respond, you know, really effectively when those events do arise. So, you know, I'm happy to talk with parents further, you know, in greater detail about what our action plans are and so forth with events like this. But I do feel that we're able to address those when they do arise, because, you know, it is a part of life down here.
Great, thank you. Now I want to turn to a couple questions that have come in, and please, if you have additional questions, please type them in. The first question is to Brian about the difference between the Rustic Pathways Children's Home and the Rice Fields base. What type of student, what's the difference between the base, and if you could talk about what type of student would be most successful at the Rice Fields base versus the Children's Home, and what to expect?
Sure. Firstly, I would say that they're both suitable for students who are traveling abroad for the first time. The key difference really is in terms of accommodation. At the Children's Home, you're staying in a traditional Karen house it's you know, we have mosquito nets, you have foam sleeping pads, fans. It's fairly comfortable, but you're in a big wooden house, and you know, there's some bugs around. So it's kind of like camping, like you have your own enclosed space, but that's really the main difference. Otherwise, you know, at the Children's Home, you get to a lot of focus on education, certainly, and you do a little bit of infrastructure. You spend time in villages, and you also work a lot with the students who live at the Children's Home. These are all teenagers who come from that province, and yeah, it's a great program. At the Rice Field, it's almost more like a international summer camp. But in both cases, you're situated in the middle of a traditional village. You do feel like you're part of the village and part of the community when you're there.
That's great, thank you. The next question we have is for Sam in Australia. Somebody just wants to know a little bit more about the food. What's the food like in Australia? What can students expect to eat on program?
Sure. We try to expose students to all of the different foods that Australia has to offer, as well as giving them food that is pretty similar to what they'd have at home. So Australian cuisine is a combination of pastas, rice dishes, barbecued meats, salads, seafood, as well as putting in lots of Australianisms like kangaroo burgers, Tim Tam slams, and you know, trying some Vegemite and Weet-Bix and all of those kind of things as well. So plenty of fresh, healthy food, similar to what you'd have at home with an Australian twist on it.
Great. The next question that came in was about just our service in general and how we choose what communities to work in. And I want to pose this question to Mark. Mark, in the United States, how do you connect with new communities? How do you build service projects? If you could just touch on that, please.
Definitely. So, I'll take Baltimore, for example. One of our co-staff, Brent Watkins, who's our Vice President of Program Operations, he actually taught at a school that had a lot of refugee students, and our program in Baltimore is centered around a refugee education project, hosting a summer camp. And when he was teaching the 3rd or 4th grade, he had 7 different languages spoken in his classroom. And he knew of a relationship with this organization called the Refugee Youth Project, who takes refugee students that are trying to get settled in the United States around Baltimore, and then provide services for them both after school and then during the summer to help boost their English language and reading skills. So he connected myself with the director, Kirsten, and we ended up going up to Baltimore, having a nice meeting with them, and then doing some site visits throughout the year to see if it was going to match up with what our goals of a company are, community service wise, and it nailed it 100%. And right now we're going into our 4th year leading the program, and it's one of our more popular programs and growing, especially with a lot of the things that are going on in the United States and the world regarding refugee resettlement. So, sometimes, things just kind of happen with connections through our own organization, and then also we find them, when we're talking with locals, when we are deciding on different program locations or, word of mouth.
Great. The next question that somebody just asked was specifically about Thailand, but I think could apply to all of the countries. So vegetarians, dietary restrictions in your countries, and we'll go around, start with Thailand. Does being a vegetarian or having some sort of restriction or strict diet limit the choices that you can make while traveling, or are we able to accommodate? Brian?
Yeah, I would say not at all. We actually, on almost every program, we have our own team of chefs who prepare all the food, and they're very good at accommodating just about every single dietary restriction. And I would say in Thailand specifically, it's quite easy to be a vegetarian. Well, it's a little bit tougher to be a vegan, but it's still possible. There's fresh fruit everywhere. There's nice vegetables. Yeah, as long as you're willing to be a little bit flexible, really, we can accommodate anything.
Great. And just real quickly, Evan, then Ricardo, Sam, then Mark.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Fiji, vegetarians are pretty easy to cater for. I think vegetarians just have to keep in mind that the cuisine in Fiji is probably not as varied as as people are used to in larger countries. But in terms of maintaining a vegetarian diet, we certainly can do that.
Great.
Yeah. So in Costa Rica as well, we can definitely, we're in tropics. We have a lot of fruit, vegetables, and easy to accommodate that. We get actually a lot of our program leaders are vegetarians, or we used to that. A lot of coworkers in here are vegetarians. So it is a very easy thing to do.
Likewise in Australia, we can accommodate all dietary requirements in Australia, and gluten-free, celiac, super easy in Australia as well. Lots of wide ranges of food for gluten-free diets.
Great, thank you. And Mark?
The same thing with the United States. And one thing I'll just add, as a whole, I think just the more information that you can provide the country teams when you're signing up and when you're talking with the representatives of Rustic Pathways, the better. If you know that your student is have a restricted palate, they only like certain things, if you can let us know ahead of time, I think that really helps us out when we start planning our trips and what kind of food options we're going to have for them.
Great. Thank you so much to our panel for taking the time to answer these questions. I know we didn't get to every question, and we'll have an opportunity for you to fill out a survey where you can also ask to speak with one of our global program advisors. Before we jump off, I do want to explain our no stress travel policy. At Rustic, we realize that sometimes plans change. Our no stress travel policy is designed to give families flexibility and peace of mind for life's unforeseen twists and turns. The No Stress Travel Policy offers families hassle-free protection of their program fees for up to 2 years if travel needs to be postponed. So again, thank you so much to our country director panel, as well as everybody who participated in tonight's panel. At the end of this, we will have a brief survey that will go out. Please take it. It's just 3 questions, and it will allow us to connect even further about these programs. Please go on rusticpathways.com. If you have any questions, email rustic@rusticpathways. And thank you again so much.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.